In a realm hidden between twilight and dawn, there lay a mystical garden known only as Elmyra. Under the eternal glow of a moon so close it seemed you could touch it, flowers bloomed in hues no earthly artist could ever capture. It was said the garden appeared only to those whose hearts ached with love unspoken or lost, those who carried an unbearable longing in their soul. Janie had been wandering in the darkness, her thoughts consumed by Tom. His absence gnawed at her. He was a man of shadows, bound to secrets and duties that tore him from her time and time again, yet she couldn't let him go, even as the ache of his distance grew unbearable. The gates of Elmyra appeared before her like a dream. They opened silently as if welcoming her inside, and she stepped forward, drawn by an invisible force. The air was rich with a scent both unfamiliar and intoxicating, a heady mix of wild blossoms and rain-soaked earth. In the heart of the garden, she saw him. Tom stood bathed in the moon's silver light, his broad shoulders relaxed for the first time in what seemed like years. His dark hair was ruffled as though kissed by the breeze, and his eyes, those deep, knowing eyes, met hers. He spoke her name. She froze, disbelief coursing through her. Janie exclaimed in surprise, asking how this was possible. Tom responded that he didn't know, he just knew he had to find her this night. The moment his hand touched her cheek, a wave of warmth spread through her. His thumb brushed her skin, a feather-light touch that sent shivers down her spine. She reached for him, her hands finding his chest, his heartbeat steady beneath her fingertips. Janie whispered that he had missed him. Tom didn't respond with words. Instead, he cupped her face with both hands and kissed her. The world around them seemed to melt away as their lips met. His kiss was slow and deliberate, as if savoring her, and she felt the depth of everything he couldn't say. She pressed closer, her fingers curling into the fabric of his shirt, pulling him to her, as if afraid he might vanish. He responded in kind, his arms wrapping around her, strong and unyielding, anchoring her to him. His body was warm and solid, a stark contrast to the cool, moonlit air. Tom explained that he had fought this for so long, but being there with her, it felt like the only truth he'd ever known. Janie told him to stop fighting it. He didn't hesitate this time. His hands slid down her sides, pulling her closer until there was no space left between them. His lips found hers again, more urgent now, his kiss deep and consuming. Janie felt herself melt into him, her hands exploring the broad planes of his back, the tension in his muscles yielding beneath her touch. Around them, the garden seemed to respond. The blossoms glowed brighter, their light casting a golden sheen over their entwined figures. A soft hum filled the air, as if the garden itself was singing of their reunion. Tom's lips left hers, trailing a path down her neck, his breath warm against her skin. She tilted her head back, a soft gasp escaping her as he pressed kisses to the curve of her shoulder. His hands roamed her back, his touch both firm and gentle, grounding her in the moment. Janie pleaded with Tom to tell her this is real. Tom told her it felt real. He added that even if it wasn't, he didn't care, he wouldn't waste another moment. He lifted her effortlessly, carrying her to the edge of the marble fountain where he sat her down gently. His hands framed her face as he kissed her again, his lips soft yet insistent, pouring everything into that single moment. Janie responded with equal fervor, her fingers threading through his hair as she clung to him. Time seemed to stretch and blur, their passion igniting something ancient and powerful in the garden around them. The stars above seemed to shimmer more brightly, their light reflecting in the pools of water that surrounded them. When they finally broke apart, both breathing heavily, Tom rested his forehead against hers. Tom whispered that he wanted to stay. Janie told him he should stay. Tom implied that he wished he could. He reached into the fountain and pulled out a single glowing blossom. It pulsed softly like a heartbeat. He placed it in her hand, curling her fingers around it. Tom, when you need me, hold this. No matter where I am, I'll find you. Tears welled in her eyes as she nodded. He kissed her again, slow and deep, as if trying to memorize every detail of her. And then the garden began to fade, the moonlight dimming as reality crept back in. Janie tried to hold on to him, but he was already slipping away. Janie shouted, "Tom!" Tom faintly whispered that he would come back. When she opened her eyes, she was back in her bed, the faint scent of blossoms lingering in the air. In her hand, the glowing flower pulsed gently, a reminder of the night she'd spent in the moonlit garden. And though her heart ached with longing, it was also full of hope, for she knew this was not the end of their story.